Konnichiwa, minasan. Here's Aki-chan. Welcome to the second part of Until We Meet Again. For a better understanding, I recommend watching part 1 first. The link will be in the description. Trigger warning, contains thunder sounds, blood, murder, and mention of a panic attack. If you are uncomfortable with any of this, please don't watch it. Take care of your mental health. But now, without further ado, enjoy the video.
So, what were you doing in the dark streets this late at night? Sitting on the roof, KyoHaba was treating Kyotani's wounds in silence for a while. In the beginning, he was simply enjoying the opportunity to examine his muscular body. But as the quiet grew, KyoHaba felt the urge to break it. And this was the only question that popped up in his head. Kyotani scoffed, not making any eye contact. Really? KyoHaba furrowed eyebrows in irritation. What's so funny? Am I not allowed to ask this, or what? His defensive attitude made Kyotani laugh a little more. He found it somehow adorable. With a slight smirk, he looked at pouting KyoHaba. For me, it's the nightly routine. The better question is, why were you in the abandoned alley all alone? In an instant, KyoHaba's facial expression turned into a sad one as he shyly turned his head away. I ran from home and hadn't any place to go. Kyotani's smile dropped. The helplessness in his voice was painful to hear. Not only that, he knew exactly how it feels to wander around without any safe place to go. His eyes slowly traveled from admiring KyoHaba's pale skin, glistening in the moonlight, to his silver gray, silky hair. He looked like some ethereal being. Why must this beautiful creature feel so much pain when he is so kind? He doesn't deserve it, not even a bit. Life isn't fair. Well, it never was in the first place. But how can I help him? Meanwhile, Kyotani was figuring out what to do. KyoHaba started nervously shifting because of the long silence. He didn't want to look like some wimp, but all he did so far was crying only. Still not looking at Kyotani, he tried to save, somehow, the situation and started babbling. Isn't it a silly excuse? It's normal for family members to argue, so I just had to apologize. But no, my stubborn self must run away, and you can talk about it if you want. This sudden interruption completely caught KyoHaba off guard. Were his ears betraying him? He must hear it again. What did you say? Kyotani shyly rubbed the back of his head, turning away from KyoHaba's shocked face, dim night hiding his slightly pink cheeks. You can talk about your problems. Of course, only if you want. I'm not forcing you. Just suit yourself. KyoHaba wanted to hear the sentence for so long. Nobody ever cared what KyoHaba felt or what he wanted. But now, this nameless warrior was willing to listen to his story. This small hope was abruptly torn by KyoHaba's insecurities, crawling from the depth of his mind. He looked up to the sky with a sad smile and tired eyes, looking for help in the stars. May I? I don't want to be a burden to you. I put you in so much danger and troubled you enough, so maybe it would be better for me to stay quiet. You are an annoying little brat, KyoHaba, who only knows how to complain. You are a shame to our society. Don't you dare let your filthy mouth speak. These sharp words were tearing KyoHaba's soul apart. The pain ate him slowly alive. Again, clear pearls were falling down his face. When it ends. A firm hand grabbed him reassuringly by his shoulder, pulling KyoHaba out from drowning himself in the devil's pit. There it was. The so-called scary face, which KyoHaba found quite attractive. His facial expression was slightly angry, but not in the wrong way. It emitted concern and worry. His eyes were warm and welcoming, encouraging KyoHaba to speak up. Don't let your demons take control over your mind. I know how hard it is, but you can't just let them treat you like their puppet. So, KyoHaba Shigeru. So, KyoHaba, don't be scared and let your struggles and fears go. Listening to his raspy, deep voice was so calming. KyoHaba wanted nothing more than snuggle into his secure embrace and listen to his voice all day long. He never felt that close to anyone. And he wanted to get closer. May May I tell you then? Of course. I'm here to listen. And can you lend me your arms for that? Kyotani was surprised by this request but didn't object. He opened his arms for KyoHaba to lay in, which he gladly accepted. At first, Kyotani was stiff, but when KyoHaba lied comfortably on his chest, his body automatically relaxed. The warmth of the other and the soft smell of iris made the night much more pleasant. This little flower started being so important to him, maybe due to these circumstances or the similarities in their lives. Or maybe, it was simply his kind and soothing presence that attached Kyotani to him. Who knows? But it didn't matter. He found KyoHaba so small and delicate as he was looking at him. This only increased his urge to protect him, so he instinctively slipped his hands around KyoHaba's slim waist and pulled him into a tight but soothing embrace. KyoHaba's heart, surprised by his move, increased its beating rate. He was very grateful that it was dark, so Kyotani wasn't able to see his bright red face. But that wasn't the only issue. As his big, muscular arms wrapped him around his waist, butterflies appeared in KyoHaba's stomach. And, at that moment, he forgot everything he wanted to say. The ticklish feeling, and goosebumps, arose with every movement that Kyotani's hands made. It was new but so enjoyable that he wanted to sink in deeper. He wanted to sink into him deeper. And so, he closed his eyes and just sat there in comfortable silence, enjoying the moment. Kyotani, seeing that KyoHaba loosen up, took another step and laid his head on his shoulder, inhaling the intoxicating smell of iris and patiently waiting for him to speak up. Seeing the elegant line of KyoHaba's neck, feeling the soft skin near his lips, he felt the urge to kiss every spot on it. Restraining himself from that move, he only took out a warm breath, under which KyoHaba shivered, and got goosebumps once again. But it also reminded him of their previous conversation. It was, probably, Kyotani's way of telling him that he was ready to listen. He didn't want to disrupt this peaceful atmosphere, but on the other hand, it would maybe help them to get closer to each other. You know, you didn't tell me your name yet. Does it matter? I don't even have a nice one. KyoHaba raised his eyebrows in disbelief at the grumpily said sentence. Of course, it matters. You know my name, so it's only fair to know yours. Besides, how else would I call you? I dunno. You can start, for example, with something like my savior. Kyotani, intentionally mocking KyoHaba, watched how his facial expression turned into a pouty one and his cheeks colored into a lovable shade of pink. He was enjoying it more than he would admit. KyoHaba, seeing the smug smile on his face, lightly slapped him. Stop making fun of me, and just tell me your name. For crying out loud. I bet that it's pretty. Kyotani Kentaro. See? That wasn't so hard. It's a nice name, suits you. Nah. Yours fits you much more. And why is that? KyoHaba was very curious about what he was thinking. His emotions and mental processes were hard to read with his stoic face. But that was one of many things that made him so handsome. And the other was his eyes, now locked with KyoHaba's. He was so close. KyoHaba's breath hitched, due to Kyotani's intense yet tender stare, still nervously anticipating the answer. Because you're beautiful. It was like the whole world stopped. The deep gentle voice sent shivers down KyoHaba's spine, his words still resonating in his mind. A pleasant warm feeling embraced his body. KyoHaba didn't know what to say, but he was sure of one thing. He entirely fell for him. In the past, he always wondered why his parents named him Shigeru. He never found himself beautiful. Maybe it was onto someone else to discover that his name truly belonged to him. And Kyotani was here to tell him exactly that. Examining KyoHaba's delicate features, Kyotani's thoughts simply slipped from his mouth. Yeah, you're a beautiful being, flower. Upon hearing those words, KyoHaba immediately hid his head, like an ostrich, in Kyotani's chest, feeling his cheeks burning from all that embarrassment. Don't do this to me. My poor heart can't handle it. I'm not used to hearing so many sweet words directed at me. Kyotani only lightly chuckled at the sight of flustered KyoHaba. He was enjoying it. I must start doing that more often. Sorry. I'll stop. Kyotani didn't see that, but that light chuckle created a bright smile on KyoHaba's face. It was something like an unspoken goal for him to make Kyotani smile or even laugh. It was because he appeared like someone who hardly smiles. And, on top of that, his laugh was so precious. Feeling happier than ever, he snuggled more into Kyotani's warm embrace to enjoy the cold starry night even more. It felt so special for both to look at the sky with each other, being in their own world. It was as if this heartwarming, endless moment filled the void in their hearts. Like they finally found their missing piece. After some time of comfortable silence, drawing pictures on Kyotani's chest, KyoHaba asked curiously. Do you believe in soulmates, Kyo? Honestly, I have never believed in this type of bullshit, answered Kyotani, still looking at the sky. His hands were gently caressing KyoHaba's waist. KyoHaba looked up at him, admiring the sharp, handsome features of his face, highlighted by the pale moonlight. Kyotani slowly started turning his head to KyoHaba, locking his yellowish-brown eyes with KyoHaba's. But then I met you. His serious gentle voice and straightforwardness flustered KyoHaba once again. How can you be so cheesy? KyoHaba's voice sounded slightly muffled due to his palms covering his face. Kyotani just shrugged his shoulders. It's your fault, flower. KyoHaba, now looking again at smug Kyotani, rolled his eyes over his passion for making him all shy and flustered. Oh God. One day, you'll be the death of me. I could not guess that you are so easily flustered. But your face is enchanting. He gently rubbed his thumb against KyoHaba's pinkish cheekbone. The pink color lovely matches your silver hair. Kyotani's fingers traveled to KyoHaba's hair, playing with the silky locks. KyoHaba, with a subtle smile, put his face into Kyotani's palm, closing his eyes. He was like a little purring kitty. Kyotani couldn't take his eyes off him. And you, flower? Do you believe in soulmates? KyoHaba hummed, not opening his eyes. I used to believe that someone out there was waiting for me. But that hope slowly faded away. My mother, little by little, crushed my dreams and hopes into dust. But now, I am certain that we were destined to meet. Wide smile appeared on KyoHaba's face. His brownish-gray eyes shined brighter than the stars, filled with hope and joy. I have never been happier. Never felt more secure. With you, I can finally taste the freedom I've been dreaming about. Despite KyoHaba's cheerful tone and shiny eyes, Kyotani felt a bitter taste in his mouth. Who does his mother think she is to be controlling KyoHaba's life? This small ball of kindness deserves nothing more than love. Kyotani needed to know more of his story, so he could protect him better and give him all the things he needed. What was your mother trying to do to you? A brief silence filled the atmosphere. KyoHaba's smile faded away. He knew that it would eventually come to this point. Looking into Kyotani's concerned eyes, he took one deep breath before speaking. She was trying to make me live her dreams. KyoHaba repositioned himself in Kyotani's arms, lying his head on Kyotani's chest. When KyoHaba was talking, Kyotani was gently stroking his hair to calm him down. You know, I live just with my mother and younger brother. My father left us many years ago because of my mother's attitude. She has never been satisfied with anything. She always has her standards, and we must follow them. Be first at everything, be the best at anything, always kind and polite, never show our true feelings nor our weaknesses. KyoHaba took a shuddered breath. His voice started slightly trembling. Kyotani, patiently listening, squeezed him in his embrace to let him know that he was safe and could continue. I had all my life planned far ahead by her. To which school I would go, with whom I could be friends, and how I would spend my free time, completely ignoring my needs, feelings, and dreams. I felt like a prisoner in my own house. She kept on punishing me for every little mistake the way that I started doubting myself. I felt like the biggest failure with no reason to live for. Kyotani started rubbing soothing circles on KyoHaba's back to calm him down when he felt his trembling body under his arms. So empty and hopeless. I was like walking body without a soul sometimes, said KyoHaba between choked sobs, salty droplets soaking into Kyotani's shirt. But, I was still trying to hope that one day I would move out from this hell and be finally free. This thought kept me sane and determined. So, I was enduring all this until today, when she came with the news of finding me a future wife. I could not accept the fact that even this aspect of my life would be arranged by her. Slowly calming down, KyoHaba wiped his waterfall of tears. Maybe this was the last straw that eventually woke me up. It's scary when you are clenched between walls without the option of leaving. Tiredly leaning on Kyotani, KyoHaba completely spaced out, his nightmares running through his head. But KyoHaba, you managed to run away from this prison. You have your destiny in your hands now. Kyotani's soothing voice brought KyoHaba back to his senses. He was looking at him with a stunned expression, still absorbing the content of the sentence. Seeing his face, Kyotani knew that he would need help to gain the confidence to step up for himself and to fully embrace the fact that he always had the option to arrange his future as he pleased. He was just blinded by his mother's actions. Look, you are an adult with free will to choose your path. Others' opinions can be irrelevant to you. Still not completely convinced and a little bit scared of that possibility, KyoHaba turned his head down, avoiding eye contact with Kyotani. What if something will go wrong? What if my mother will find a way to stop me again? You can do what you want, flower. Everything that you dreamed about, and no one will stop you. Lifting KyoHaba's chin to look him in the eyes, Kyotani recognized that there was a storm inside his head. So, he gave him a warm and reassuring smile, caressing his cheeks in the process, trying to dismiss his insecurities. KyoHaba, in return, shyly smiled at him, little by little accepting his words. Besides, he has Kyotani by his side now to protect him. His words and actions lifted his confidence like nothing else. And thanks to him, he truly believed that he might change something in his life. I've always wanted to do something spontaneous. Something out of my mind, you know. Kyotani grabbed the opportunity to give some confidence to the shy boy to step out into the unknown. Then now is your chance. KyoHaba's eyes traveled around the place, trying to think about something crazy. Something he could never do in the past. When his eyes landed on Kyotani's big hand, holding his much smaller one, the idea popped out of nowhere. Sparkling like a star, he turned to Kyotani with a wide smile, eyes filled with joy. You know what, let's get married. Kyotani forgot, for a brief second, how to breathe. He was speechless. This was the most unexpected idea that KyoHaba could think of. Are you serious? You don't even know me that well. Surely, I'm not the right person to get married to. And why is that? Everything you did so far just tells me otherwise. Believe me. When you hear about my childhood, you'll be gone at the speed of light. Kyotani was trying to back away from this idea. He didn't want to scare KyoHaba with his past when this moment was so perfect. He finally found a person, which accepted him as he was. And going deeper into his past would surely lead to catastrophe. But KyoHaba didn't care. He was determined to discover every inch of Kyotani's life. Both the good and the bad parts of it. So, tell me your story, and then I will decide if I still want to marry you. It seemed impossible to win against KyoHaba's beliefs, so Kyotani just loudly sighed as a sign of defeat, preparing himself for the worst. Fine. As you wish, but I warned you. KyoHaba, silently nodding, was ready to be now the one that would patiently listen and give comfort when it was needed. I am an only child. Kyotani started talking with a calm voice, but the long pause between sentences indicates his distaste to continue. KyoHaba also saw that he was intentionally avoiding eye contact. He knew it isn't easy to open up to someone, especially when it comes to trauma. But after opening up to Kyotani, he wanted him to experience that relief he felt. Squeezing his hand in reassurance, he waited for his story. I lived with my parents in a small house. My mother worked as a cleaning lady, and my father as a worker. We didn't earn much, so our house was slowly rotting. We didn't own many things, But that didn't matter. My mother was still optimistic and kind, living every day to the fullest. But she was very timid. My father, Kyotani shivered at the thought of him, terrifying memories flashing before his eyes. KyoHaba could feel the shivers too, and it gave him some uncertainty. What could be that bad that even Kyotani shivered upon that thought? My father, on the other hand, was a hot-headed person with anger issues, especially when he was drunk. There wasn't a day that he didn't try to harm me, or my mother. And as days went by, his attitude became worse. Mixing drugs with alcohol didn't help either. KyoHaba couldn't imagine how hard must have been living on the edge every day. That would also explain why he has so many old scars. Lightly tracing one of them with his finger, KyoHaba saw how Kyotani's face suddenly turned pale. But that one evening was different. He paused. It almost looked like he stopped breathing. His mind was becoming fuzzy, the sounds of the dark stormy night ringing in his ears. KyoHaba, seeing this blank, emotionless stare, knew that Kyotani was getting lost in his thoughts. KyoHaba carefully caressed his shoulder and gently called for him, hoping that he'll pull him back to his senses. Kyo, can you hear me? Kyotani turned his head towards the voice, still a little bit off. It's okay. I'm here with you. Can you breathe for me? Just one deep breath. Kyotani calmed down slowly upon hearing KyoHaba's gentle voice. He took a big amount of cold air into his lungs, which caused him a shuddered breathing. Carefully. Breathe in and out. Nice, and slowly. That's it. You are doing great. In a short amount of time, Kyotani was able to breathe again normally. With tired eyes, he looked at KyoHaba. Is it better? Yeah. Thank you, flower. Despite Kyotani's grateful smile on his face, KyoHaba felt guilty for his current state. It's understandable if you don't want to continue. I don't want to make you uncomfortable. I will continue. You deserve to know the truth, after all. The guilt of not telling you everything would eat me alive. But it took him a second to recognize what was clenching his heart. Feeling slightly embarrassed, Kyotani once again turned his head away from KyoHaba. But I'm scared that you will be disgusted by me after I tell you everything. Seeing this strong warrior letting his walls fall and being willing to reveal his vulnerable side made KyoHaba fall for him even more. Kyo, listen. KyoHaba turned Kyotani's head back, so he could look him in the eyes, caressing his cheek in the process. Whatever happened in the past, it can hardly change my opinion about you. You didn't have to help me, but you did. You could just easily ignore my insecurities and problems, but instead, you encouraged me to let everything out and even offered me your secure embrace. Nobody ever did this for me. You gave me hope to start all over again, and I want that for you, too. We can start a new stage of our lives together. So, don't be afraid to tell me anything. I'll be here to protect you from your demons. Kyotani stayed staring at KyoHaba silently for a moment. His words, like a key, unlocked the dark rusty bars that surrounded Kyotani's shattered heart, and brought its pieces together again. A warm feeling was spreading through his body. The image of their life together, the hope that it brought. It made his heart flutter. Ah. So this is how it feels to love and be loved. With a lovely smile, he kissed the top of KyoHaba's hand and took it in his. Fine. I let you have the role of protector for this moment, flower. But after that, I'm taking it back. KyoHaba just slightly chuckled upon this statement. It seemed that his manly pride was still there. Whatever you say, my mighty knight. But promise me, if something will trigger you or make you uncomfortable, you'll stop me. The serious look caused KyoHaba to drop his smile and just whispering the promise. I promise. Kyotani took a deep breath before he spoke again. So, as I said, the one night was different. I don't know what triggered him, but he was out of his mind. Completely. He was shouting and throwing things around himself in the kitchen. My mother was trying to stop him, but he didn't listen. Instead, he started arguing with her. I didn't know about what, exactly. I was too far to hear everything. but I could see very well what he was doing. So, Kyotani paused and looked at KyoHaba, making sure that he can continue. KyoHaba gulped and slightly nodded, sensing the worst part coming. So, when he grabbed my mother by her hair, I instantly went to save her. But it was too late. Kyotani's hands were shaking. The image started being more vivid with every second. Right before my eyes, he cut her throat. I still can hear her screams. KyoHaba didn't expect this. Not in the slightest. It sounded like a fictional horror story. But his stunned expression quickly changed when he saw shaking Kyotani with teary eyes. He pulled him into his embrace, drawing soothing circles on his back. Kyotani, letting his guard down, gripped KyoHaba's shirt and, with a cracked voice, continued. The floor was, in an instant, covered with blood. And I couldn't do anything. I was just staring at her body, which fell on the floor. First tears were soaking into the fabric of KyoHaba's shirt. And then, continued Kyotani between choked sobs. Then he went for me. With a bloody knife and insane smile. I hadn't the option to run. I was clenched between him and a wall. It was like a lightning strike. The awareness of his action back then made him breathless for a moment. He blankly stared at his shaking hands, salty droplets falling at them one by one, completely lost in his thoughts. KyoHaba, worried sick, tried to gently call out for him. Kyo. I killed him. KyoHaba wasn't sure if he heard him correctly. His voice was so quiet. It wasn't him at all. I killed him, KyoHaba. I am a murderer. On the other hand, this sudden outburst startled KyoHaba quite a bit. I have his blood still on my hands. It won't wash away. I am a monster. His helpless cries echoed through the starry night. KyoHaba, on the brim of crying too, pulled Kyotani into his arms, squeezing him firmly, trying to vanish all his pain. You aren't a monster, Kyo. You were defending yourself. And if you didn't do what you did, you wouldn't be here with me tonight. The last few words caused the release of the first salty pearls. KyoHaba didn't want to imagine what would happen if Kyotani didn't show up tonight. Upon that thought he tightened his embrace even more, as he might vanish right now. It's not your fault, whispered KyoHaba in a slightly shaky voice into Kyotani's ear. He was trying to stay composed, and comfort Kyotani, but tears made their way out of his eyes. And so, the dark sky was once again filled with a melancholic symphony of two lost souls, crying their hearts out in the safety of the loving arms of the other.